Cinemas and COVID, Part 5. So today, as promised, I'm going to talk about Digicel IMAX. So if you're new here, I've been talking about local cinemas here in Trinidad and really exploring how they've adopted and implemented our local COVID-19 guidelines. To date, I've done about 4 cinemas here locally, and the playlist is in the description box below. So feel free to check out any of those. These are 4 cinemas spread across 2 franchises in Trinidad. So let's get into it. So I enter the cinema and the doors are left open. I don't need any hand sanitizer, and there isn't any. There are no floor markers. But at the entrance, within plain sight, there is bilingual COVID-specific signage that's really highly visible. Then I make my way to the original ticket booth, take my own temperature, get some hand sanitizer. And seeing that I didn't purchase my ticket online, she takes my contact info, I guess, for contact tracing, name, email address, and phone number. At the concession stand, I'm going to purchase my ticket. I don't see any hand sanitizer for me. There is plexiglass screens. I'm not really seeing any signage either. But with respect to the ticket, there are pre-assigned seats, and I chose the center back row, that was B20, to sit. Based on this, their physical distancing looks decent. I would have liked to see some hand sanitizer for my use at this point because I used my card to pay. I would have touched the card machine. But it's refreshing to see that they have hand sanitizer, the concessionaires, on their side.
Thank you. Did you move a ticket?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, I wasn't expecting to see the movie ticket look like a receipt. So there are floor markers and there are plexiglass screens around the actual cashier booth, but the display case and the popcorn area does not have plexiglass coverage. Not that I needed anything at the condiment stand, but I noticed there was no hand sanitizer, and I think it'd be necessary seeing that there are so much high contact areas in this vicinity. But there was signage. About 10 minutes before the start of the movie, I enter the theater. This is not a 3D movie, so I don't need the glasses. All the doors to the theater were left open, so I didn't really need to sanitize before I entered. So most of the seats in this theater are fabric seats, except for the row in the back, which is VIP. If you recall the guidelines in the previous videos that I did, you would see that fabric seats are actually not recommended. Non-fabric seats are preferred. So my seat was B20, and in addition to the dark, it was hard to actually find the seats because the numbers on the seats themselves were rubbed off. So that was a little bit of a challenge. When guests started to fill the cinema, it was apparent that not skipping rows was going to be a problem. Everyone wanted to sit in the center back of the theater, and it kind of caused some clustering within the theater. So this is footage of me leaving the theater. So while the footage is not visually appealing, and I'm at this point, it's because there were no pre-show announcements. There's nothing to show. There's nothing COVID specific, and there are no emergency guidelines given before the movie. So apparently IMAX uses these reusable trays, but they're not like theater specific trays. They're just the regular food court trays. I'm just looking around for any hand sanitizer at all, and I'm not seeing it. So I just leave. And here's some more signage outside the washroom. So IMAX is a little bit different from the cinemas that we've looked at before because they ascribe to CinemaSafe. So CinemaSafe is essentially a program developed in the United States with best practice from epidemiologists from the CDC, and it is tailored towards the reopening of cinemas in the United States. And they have this assurance on their website, and whenever you see the CinemaSafe badge, you could rest assured that everything possible to ensure your safe and healthy return to cinemas. So the links to CinemaSafe, their website, their protocols, their PDF document, which is simply just a 9-page PDF document, as well as our local guidelines, are all in the description box below. As we talk about local guidelines, all cinemas in Trinidad have to ascribe to our local guidelines. This new safety regulation that Digicel IMAX ascribes to doesn't necessarily mean that it's exempted from what exists here. And for the most part, there are major overlaps. Dare I say, even the local guidelines go a little bit more detailed in specific areas. So I'm going to draw specific reference to areas of improvement or areas that I've noticed that, in my opinion, weren't living up to what the standards and the requirements, both locally and internationally, are requiring. And number one is hand sanitizer. Oh my gosh, if you've looked at the previous 4 videos in this series, you'll realize that I have a kind of unhealthy obsession for hand sanitizer stations. But it specifically stated that hand sanitizer stations, according to CinemaSafe, need to be in plenteous supply, located for the public for use within your entire facility, throughout all areas of your facility. And to be honest, Digicel IMAX only had a hand sanitizer station at the old ticket booth before I even entered the concession stand area. That was the only hand sanitizer station I saw. None at the concession stand, none at the Condiment Station, none at the entrance to the theater. So y'all need to improve on that. Second thing is modified concessions. Both requirements talk about minimizing cash payments and eliminating utensils and condiments that require shared utensils. So in a previous video, I would have mentioned that I had a concern about the pumps, the condiment pumps, and the sanitization procedures, even though there was a hand sanitizer station there. With IMAX, there's no hand sanitizer station, and there are a lot of high-touch services with the condiment bottles, and there was some like mini serving bowls for the other condiments. Even though not explicitly stated in CinemaSafe, the local guidelines, I think, caters for this by saying that they would prefer disposable or single-use items. Thirdly, CinemaSafe asks about policies. And by policies, they refer to ample announcements, sharing information constantly with patrons and staff about COVID-19 protocols. One of them in particular that they cite are on-screen announcements. And as I would have mentioned before, there were no on-screen announcements, whether it be for general safety and housekeeping information or COVID-19 protocols. None whatsoever. The fourth issue that I could see as compared to the CinemaSafe guidelines is that of ushering. CinemaSafe asked for an adequate number of personnel to basically enforce their regulations. Basically along the lines of crowd control, which is traffic, and physical distance. But as you know, there was no one to guide me to my seat. There was one person in the concession stand and there was one person at the entrance. So it looked like they were really tight on staffing. And I want to believe that each member of staff had more responsibilities than they would usually have had. Ticket sales were done at the concession stand. So it looks like they were really tight on staffing to actually allow for this protocol to be put into place effectively. The fifth thing that I actually see is physical distancing, maintenance of physical distancing within the theater. If you would recall, when I was purchasing my tickets, IMAX utilizes a pre-assigned seating system. And at face value, when I looked at it, I chose a seat where I thought I would have the best viewing experience. And I also relied heavily on them that they would actually, the choices that they were given to me were actually adequately spaced. I didn't realize at that point in time that they weren't skipping rows. And even though I went to cinemas that rows were skipped, I really didn't appreciate it until I went to IMAX. And every row was occupied. Everyone had the same thinking as me, to sit in the center back of the theater. And out of the about 20 people that were there, it was a clump of persons towards the back end of the theater. For 3 consecutive rows in front of me, there were people. But I have to say, thank God, in the absence of ushers to enforce physical distancing, discretion was used by the patrons. And because there wasn't much people in the cinema, people adjusted accordingly. So kudos to those people who actually take matters into their own hands and don't have to wait on someone to tell them what to do. So you could just imagine, with these consecutive rows being filled, the context and the usage of a theater space, you actually do have to remove your mask. I do recall everyone sitting in close proximity to me bought food from the concession stand and were eating for pretty much the entire duration of the movie. So that means the masks were down. So you could imagine combining the close proximity with the pulling down of the mask for eating concession items, what that could potentially be a recipe for. But again, I just have to say thank God that patrons have common sense, discretion, morality, and they adjusted the distancing based on how they felt comfortable in the absence of ushers to guide them to do so. In terms of non-COVID related issues that I saw, when I was exiting the washroom area, I actually noticed the fire extinguisher there was 1 month overdue for inspection. So it's probably something that was overlooked. These things happen, but it'd be a good idea to, get them checked. So my final thoughts are this. If it is that you're putting branding on your website, and you go to that website's parent page and you see all the nice fancy mission statements and commitment statements and all of these nice things that people like to market as part of safety in this time of COVID-19, you might want to adhere to them. The things that I've raised are really low-hanging fruit. Hand sanitizer stations are so basic. We're approaching a year into this pandemic. Those things are so normal. Even something as simple as putting a hand sanitizer station by a Condiment Station, that's a no-brainer. And even the safety video and the signage, you could, as the other franchises and locally have done, use your concession stand boards to the back with menu items to have some things running to just reinforce the commitment that you've made to keep your patrons safe during this time. But I hope it's enough information for this cinema to get you thinking on how well they've measured up to the protocols that have been outlined and the protocols that they have subjected themselves to. So that's it for this video. Stick around. I know I've promised to do one more in this series, and that's Movie Town in Tobago. I honestly, at this point in time, I don't know when I'll get a chance to go to Tobago, but I really do intend to do that in the near future. If you found the content in this video series valuable, be sure to click the like button and just let me know in the comment section any clarifications, any other topics you would like to see discussed. Be sure to check out some of the latest content in between this Cinemas and COVID series. I've started a series unofficially on ride-sharing services in Trinidad. The links are below. And if you haven't yet, follow me on Instagram at The Honest Guest T. That's The Honest Guest with 2 T's. And stick around there for some unique content on my Instagram TV section. Thanks so much for making it to this point in the video. I hope you stick around for more content, other series, more stuff on Instagram, more stuff on the blog, and thank you so much for your support up to this point. And until next time, bye.